Welcome to It Has Been 7 Minutes, the YouTube show dedicated to analyzing and throwing random facts tangent to the show Hazbinhotel out into the void, all while occasionally being something like funny maybe. This time, be prepared for all the TV lore. So much TV lore. For context, when this thing here is released, half of Season 2 is already out, and I will have watched none of it while writing it. So let's go! We begin today with a shit-eating grinning moth and end with Charlie introducing a shit-eating grinning radio demon. When last we parted ways, Vox was being quite agitated, saying, "Alistair is back and is staying with Lucifer's daughter, and this was the first fucking thing you told me." Val is more amused than worried as he replies, "Hey, killing Alistair is your gig," and walks over to his small Big Brother wall to switch to the Hazbinhotel channel. And we are just a few seconds in and I already have questions. We see that Val uses a drone to spy on the hotel. However, as we have seen in the wide shot, there is neither luscious greenery nor other buildings or anything to obscure the view on the device. So how is it no one has ever seen the drone hovering over their heads? Especially since those things are freaking loud. Also, you want to tell me that Val of all people knew of Alistair before Vox of all people? At this point, Alistair is staying with Charlie for at least a week. And yes, the hotel was abandoned before Charlie occupied it, so it might not have seemed worthy of surveillance, but it is located on a very exposed place, so it would have been easy to spot as being inhabited. Also, aren't you in charge of the TV programming? Those guys just ran a commercial. Fox, you really need to step up your Big Brothering game. Now, because Al's indie horror glitch effect has conveniently calmed down, he can see Alistair tilting Pench's blimp like a toy and laughing maniacally. Pench's falls to the ground face first, and one of his egg boys follows right behind and breaks. When asked about the egg boys, Vivsy only revealed that Pench's made them with help from another person, which could either mean that they were literally created or sexy time. But it was probably the former. They don't strike me as having a very parental relationship. But judging by the fact that they bleed yolk, they also can't be machines. So who knows? Maybe they were created the Frankenstein way, and in future seasons we will be getting a flashback of Sir Pench's screaming, "It's alive!" Right now, he is occupied by getting the upper hand over Alistair, even if it's just by ripping his coat. His triumph vanishes quickly, though, when Alistair looms over him in a foreboding manner. It's accompanied by a sound effect that to me sounds like a screeching door, but since Al has his antlers out again, it could also be a deer scream, because deer sound like this. Or this. Which, to me, just sounds like Tim Allen. Alistair makes Sir Pen do a Team Rocket over the town before he announces that a trip to the tailor is due, even though his coat is always torn at the end. Well, I suppose it needs to be torn the white way. You don't understand, it's fashion. Speaking of, we already know that Al is old school, as in he rejects everything that was invented after his lifetime in the 1930s. But his fashion style is more old school than even that. A coat that was tightly fitted around the waist while having a wide flare and pronounced shoulder sleeves was the style of the 1830s rather than the 1930s. And don't even get me started on his fuck-ass bob. While this hairstyle was en vogue for women in the 20s, for males the last time the bob was in style was in the 17th century. And while we're at it, this cross, it's driving me insane. If it's fastening, I wouldn't know what kind it is supposed to be, for in a pleek it is in a weird place. What are you? Anyway, Alistair's primary color is red. You know what is also red? The cover of the first Sims 1 expansion pack Hot Date. I want this to go down as the best transition I have ever done, by the way. 20 years ago, Elle's voice actor Amir Talai spoke some Simlish as a voice actor for Sims Hot Date. And by speaking Simlish, I mean he strung a bunch of syllables together milli-vanilli, as he told Collider. And I was seriously tempted to install this thing again, provided my PC would have let me, to see if I could spot his voice. But I know realistically I wouldn't be able to, so I didn't. The knowledge that one angry sim whose advances have been rejected as Alistair though brings me a lot of joy for some reason. Alistair says sul sul, but before he goes on his merry way, he conjures up the very same shadow servants he called as technicians for the commercial shooting. This time though, they're in the roles of builders, since there is a heart-shaped hole to fix in the hotel walls. In Celtic mythology, there is a shadow creature called Fiadorcha, or Fiadorich, or Fardorcha, translating to the Dark Man. He is a dark fairy who is the butler of the Shie, aka Fairy Queen, prayer of the weak and opponent of the strong. He is also an antagonist of Irish mythology's main hero Finn This, often anglicized to Finn McCool. When the Dark Man fails to win over his wife Scythe, as revenge, he turns her into a deer. Angel, on the other hand, is very quickly won over by one bulky shadow creature. He tosses Vaggie out of his way to flirt aggressively with a creature who seems to be confused about what is even going on. Maybe he doesn't understand what Angel means when he says he's into his giant tool. In Japanese, he calls it ichimotsu, consisting of the words one and to have. You can use it to say one thing of some sort, but it is also a euphemism for the penis. In German, the tool is even specified by Angel, calling it a giant bolt. We switch back to Val following the whole scene. Val is not amused about Angel's advances on someone who is not even paying. Which means, yes, Angel is not only a porn actor but also a sex worker. Prior to the show's release, Vivsy drew two short prequel comics, one focusing on Alistair and one on how Angel got to stay in the hotel. And in this latter comic, it is depicted that Val makes Angel run the streets as a punishment for spending time away from the V-Tower without Val's permission. You will also notice that Angel is smoking here, which he doesn't do one single time in Season 1. In fact, only Val is smoking in Season 1, and I find it kind of funny that Season 2 compensates by having every other character smoke. Vox doesn't pay attention to Val's threats to kill the shadow creature's whole fucking family, because he is getting so angry that he's initiating a song, signified by a sudden oompa, 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 loompa, doopity-doo. Vox is gonna sing a song for you. But first, a bit of clues regarding what exactly is going on. Val asks, "You're still pissed, he almost beat you that time," and Vox is saying it's been about 7 years, things have changed a lot since then. So this little exchange is hinting on Alistair disappearing for 7 years after he and Vox did battle, and after which the V's became the powerhouses they are now. Since, of course, our memory is also a powerhouse, we remember from the episode prior that Charlie's mom, Lilith, has been radio silent for 7 years as well, so it is likely that there is some connection between Lilith and Alistair. The pretty butterfly serving as screensaver for Val's surveillance wall changes into Vox's V as his song begins in earnest. Welcome home. I'm gonna make you wish that you'd stayed gone. He sings as he enters his little supervillain cave we have seen in the last part, but now that we are looking at it from a top-down perspective, we are able to see that it is hovering over a body of water with sharks swimming in it, glowing brightly blue. This area is very reminiscent of a Bond villain's typical hideout, which does fit since Vox died in the 50s when Ian Fleming wrote his first James Bond novels. Shark tanks already featured in Fleming's second novel in the series, Live and Let Die, and there it was also already used as a method of human disposal. Although this was the only time sharks featured in the novels, the movies, on the other hand, turned them into a staple, featuring shark tanks on 4 different occasions. Vox little sharkies, at least according to the fake Instagram posts we discussed last time, are called Vargs. Because if you have a theme, you have to run with it. Vox leaves the Bond franchise to enter another one, The Matrix. He plugs his head into his control center, resulting in everything lighting up, in markings resembling a circuit board, signifying that something computer sciencey is going on here. Vox finishes his verse with, "Turn the TV on!" This little thing Christian Bale, Vox's VA, does here at the end is known in the musical world as a shadow vowel, and it's describing the act of adding a little vowel at the end of a word to make it clearer for the listener. It's usually not quite as pronounced as Vox is doing it here. We hear someone saying, "Bowling in 3, 2. This is the voice of one of the songwriters, Sam Haff, who, besides writing music, is indeed also a voice actor. We pan over a soundstage and come across a familiar face. It's Choke Guy, and they're holding a giant tool. A mic, to be precise. And with the jingle, "Welcome to the show," the song State Gone starts showing off some various TV programs featuring Vox. It's heavily implied that during his years on Earth, Vox has been a TV personality, but there are a lot of options which kind of program he was hosting. So I thought, why not take this opportunity to do a little mystery solving and try to find out while discussing this little slideshow. And because it isn't clearly stated, I'm just going to assume Vox is American, so I'm mostly going to be referring to the American history of TV programs. First, we see him as a news anchor. The breaking news are, "Unremarkable loser back from fucking off." In the artist's rendition of Alistair, he has in his hand what is described by Vox as a lame stick and by Val as a dildo. But of course we know it's a microphone, and at some point in time it has been a sentient one. In the pilot, Al's mic talks back to him, but in his own voice, and that is because back then it was still planned for his mic to be an extension of Alistair, like it's part of his body. But by the time the show was made, this seemed to have got scrapped. Further descriptions of Alistair are smelly, probably, furry, dumb hair, triangle ass, Vox, it's his clothes, we already talked about this, and gross hoof feet. We also have a banner to read. Yes, let's do it. So the radio guy's back. I don't think you noticed. I didn't at first. I was too busy being a much more interesting and important person. But fuck it, news is slow today, I guess. I'm totally not worried about this guy, and neither should you be. I totally wrecked his shit last time. He tried me, thanks. Unsurprisingly, news were one of the first programs airing on TV in its beginnings. During World War II, they proved to be extremely successful for radio stations, so the same attempt was made for TV. At first in the form of newsreels with voiceover over video footage, similar to the ones shown in cinemas at the time. The first news show that was successful with audiences, though, was also the first one giving it the shape we are familiar with today. A person sitting at a table reading the news and accompanied by photos or video footage. This news show was launched in 1949 by NBC, and its name was Camel News Caravan. So called because it was sponsored by Camel cigarettes. And if you thought blatant product placement is a thing of recent times, I'm happy to disappoint you. Not only was a huge camel logo plastered on the table, presenter John Cameron Swayze would also display camels on set and occasionally even smoke one. We change the scene and are now in a late night setting, with double the Vox for double the enjoyment. We can differentiate them because presenter Vox is as we have seen him previously, and guest Vox wears those weird glasses that you can't even properly see through. He probably doesn't care. He's sexy and he knows it. I'm Voxy and I know it. He also drinks from a mug with the label Fuck Alistair. This show is called Vox Tonight, fittingly, and in fact the first late night show was launched in 1954 and today is called The Tonight Show. Back then its name was just Tonight. I'm sorry, I mean Tonight! But before becoming a fully fledged show on NBC in 1953, it had been a local program in New York called The Knickerbocker Beer Show. And yes, of course, show host Steve Allen drank beer in front of the camera. Next, we see Vox in a priest's getup and multiplied on a TV wall, referring to a phenomenon I will put under the category America, are you good? So-called televangelists are headmen of some sort of various Christian churches, televising their missionizing on dedicated channels, and this has been going on since the days of the radio even. It was Bishop Fulton J. Sheen who was referred to by Time magazine in 1952 as the first ever televangelist, coining the term. Sheen had a widely popular show called Life is Worth Living, in which he called his assistants his angels. And did you smoke and drink beer during your sermons too? Brothers and sisters, let us pray to the Holy Lord. Holy Lord for eternal salvation. Woo! The last option strikes me as the least plausible so far, because those guys typically seem to be church guys first and TV presenters second, and Vox is very much oops all TV for me. He just really loves the message obey and pay. This is a reference to the term pray and obey, or in its full form, keep sweet, pray and obey, a phrase invented by Rulon Jeffs, founder of the FLDS cult, to be a mantra for his wives, telling them how they are supposed to behave in front of their husband. Obey and pay could still be its own mantra regarding the subject though, because a lot of those televangelists are performing miracles on television directly paid by your money, because God is a capitalist too, you see. Next in line we have Vox in a cute white cruise ship outfit, a chilled cocktail in his hand and witnessing the eruption of a volcano on a tropical island. Travel shows joined the roster of your typical TV program relatively late, the first one being a show called High Adventures with Lowell Thomas, in which Lowell Thomas traveled around the world. The episode fitting the situation Vox is creating the most is the 10th one, which aired on January 22nd, 1959, and was called Danger Island. He means Madagascar. Madagascar is Danger Island. But I mean, of course, Madagascar is very dangerous.
I like to move it.
In this episode, we were to visit the remote, exotic South Seas, see a rare solar eclipse, a volcano eruption, and Polynesian hula dances. Tonight in color! I would rule out this option too, personally. It came in very late in the 50s and aired only once a month or every 2 months even, because it was so expensive to make. So I would assume you wouldn't be able to gather a large dedicated fan base as a host if you do just that. We get a little break from Vox, when we change the focus to Alistair, who is just finished with getting his triangle ass properly triangled again by the local tailor. Upon seeing Vox across the street, the look in Alistair's eyes tells us yet again how angry he is despite his smile. We'll come back to that a bit later. First, let's wrap up this little TV history with the cooking show. We see Vox in a kitchen getting a delicious deer head roast out of the oven. This show is called Venison with Vox, and when the first cooking shows came around in the 40s, the practice of cooking whole animal heads already went out of fashion for decades, though in 1926 the radio precursor of the cooking show at least still shared a recipe for stuffed beef heart. Honestly, right out of the gate I would rule this one out too. During the 50s, cooking shows were not quite primetime program yet, and TV cooks weren't yet celebrities. Most of them were hosted by women for women, and as we all know, it's when men discover an activity for themselves, which women have been doing every day for ages, that it's worthy of praise and acclaim. The whole time, Vox is painting Alistair as incapable, unimportant, and cowardly, and assures all his viewers that he is not worth paying attention to. So, you could start calling Vox Barbara Streisand, because this whole thing was the stupidest panic reaction of all time. Alistair was laying low for now, hadn't started his radio show again, and Vox basically announced, "Hey, this very influential demon you all know is back in town, but don't acknowledge his existence, please." Oh, and of course, all those visuals match the lyrics exactly. Well, not exactly. They also contain dumb puns. Upon returning home, Alistair does start his own broadcast in the TV tower, where we can finally have a look at its interior. Besides a dashboard, Al has a microphone, but he rather uses his staff to broadcast his voice. On the left, there's a coat rack in an antler look, holding on to a purple coat Al has never and will never wear. Everything is a bit run down due to the fact that it hasn't been used in 7 years, but at least it is decorated with some Instagram-approved garland. Not only does Al blast his voice through the speakers all over town, he places a radio directly next to the TV wall he passed earlier, just so that Vox is able to witness Al luring his audience away. Alistair basically starts a rap battle with Vox, calling him a mediocre video podcast. So, you mean just a video, right? I mean, a podcast is defined by its lack of video, isn't it? Oh, I don't know. But what I know is that it's a weird thing to say, especially since podcasts are such a new thing that Al shouldn't be too familiar with the concept in the first place. But Sam Haft also said that he takes songwriting as an opportunity to put in expressions that would be too strange to say in a normal conversation, so I shouldn't be surprised. Vox takes the bait, line, hook, and sinker, and argues back, while Betty from Fern Gully and the rest of his mummy gang are unsure of who they should turn their attention to. Our two rivals enter the picture in a split screen. Their respective backgrounds complement their color schemes, which already underline their conflict. Al is still very, very red, and while Vox represents his nature as a demon with red accents in his clothes and his eyes, he is mostly blue, 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 dabba-dee-dabba-die. As both try to overpower the other, the line between them gets shoved around until Al invades Vox's blue domain to take control over the narrative. We see his message being brought to a buff and stylish shark and a cute sheep. But more importantly, the other V's get to hear that, "Is Vox as strong as he reports, or is it based on his support? He'd be powerless without the other V's." Val and Velvet smile to themselves, pleased with Al's assessment, or maybe because they already believed this to be true. While Val and Velvet are lounging in Valentino's apartment, they are passing the time on their phones so that we're able to see their cases. Vel's depicts the same image as his screensaver, and Velvet's shows a 3 and a V organized to look like a heart. But Alistair isn't done, oh no, he drops the bomb. And here's the sugar on the cream, he asked me to join his team. I said no and now he's pissy, that's the tea. Vox teleports in front of the radio as if he could somehow stop those words from coming out that way, his face in absolute shock, suggesting that L did actually spill the truth here. Although, apparently Vox didn't really teleport. In his TV screens he stands in front of the radio, but not in reality. Huh? I swear, hazbinhotel, if you join the multiverse trend, I'm going to throw my TV out of the window. So does Vox's hatred really just stem from being rejected? Maybe. But honestly, inviting Alistair was a dumb idea anyway. It clearly would have never worked out. I mean, his name, after all, isn't Valister. Duh. Vox beams back into his villain cave, but he is so furious by now that his TV had malfunctions, showing a test card. Test cards were introduced concurrently to TV programs, in Germany even before TV shows started airing, and in the beginning they were simple cardboard pictures placed before a camera until they were generated electronically within the tube TV itself. The purpose of a test card was to, well, test the quality of the TV image in between programs. In the 90s, 24-hour TV program was introduced, so the test card was finally put out of a job. Sometimes Voxes had glitches also to the error message reading, Ahem. A problem has been detected and Vox has been shut down to prevent damage to his system. The problem seems to be caused by the following file, alistair.x. Vox.x crash error, eat shit Alistair. Check to make sure all fucking 1930s looking ass hardware and software is up to date and properly installed. Ask Vox for any Vox Tech updates you might need. If problems continue, fuck you Alistair, disable or remove any Alistairs from the general vicinity. If you need to use unsafe mode, reset your Vox Tech device, press F5 and select Advanced Startup Options, then select Unsafe Mode. Technical information, stop alistair.x, old-timey prick radio. So besides being an eldritch monster and a radio demon, Alistair is also a computer virus. Got it. Okay. With all the context we have now, I think a theme is emerging. It will be even clearer at the end of this episode, but even now we can already see dominance being confused for acceptance. Vox wasn't accepted by Alistair, and that was the ultimate insult that haunts him to this day. Since then, his method against those kinds of insults has been to become the person people would trust. A person of reliable perfection amongst all the chaos of hell. And yes, relating to the V's brand, this mainly means to trust them with your wallet, but it's clear that, more than that, it's a psychological need. Vox needs to be the one person you cannot risk to ignore, so that no one will ever again tell him, I don't need you. Vox malfunctioning causes Val and Velvet to get shocked by their phones and the whole town to get hit by a blackout. We get a wide shot we have already taken a look at in a previous video. In the wet sky we spot two planets, one of them being heaven. Among the recognizable landmarks are the V-Tower, the Clock Tower, the hotel, and a residence of yet unknown origins, probably where all the priests get hammered and party. And I'm afraid now is finally the time to address the big pentagram in the room. Cause this is Pentagram City, and there are now so many pentagrams everywhere I can no longer ignore it. So let's start with the fact that the name is totally wrong. Because you see, actually, if a circle encircles the pentagram, it is called a pentacle. Anyway, what are pentagrams? Well, pentagrams seem to have been here since forever and always represent something positive. They were often used to protect homes from evil, especially against nightly terrors called Druids. Therefore, the pentagram was also called a Drudenfuß in German, or a Druid's foot. They were also used as decorations in churches because their pointy ends were associated with Christ's wounds. And by looking at the pictures I have shown you, it's clear that the positive association remains even if the symbol is pointed downwards. That's because for the longest time the way it was directed at didn't fundamentally change its meaning. It was only in the mid-19th century when this guy, Alphonse Louis Constant, publishing under his alias Eliphas Lévy, decided that the upwards pointing pentagram is good and the downwards pointing pentagram is evil, because it resembles a goat head. And as we all know, the devil looks like this. Even though this is a depiction Lévy himself also created. It was then in 1966 that Anton LaVey uses it as a sigil for his newly founded Church of Satan, and the inverted pentagram became perpetually associated with the devil and Satanism. Fun fact 1. Occultist and cult leader Aleister Crowley was born the same year Eliphas Lévy died, and therefore claimed that he was his reincarnation. Fun fact 2. There is a conspiracy theory that Taylor Swift is the reincarnation of Anton LaVey's daughter Zena, despite the fact that Zena is still very much alive. Back to the song. Like the electricity, the music cuts out completely, before returning with an renewed oompa oompa. But now, the Oompa Loompas are more menacing. Perfectly in line with the beat, we cut closer and closer to the radio tower, and Aleister feeds Vox his own words. Let's begin. I'm gonna make you wish that I'd stayed gone. His figure grows into a menacing, gaunt creature as he announces a new status quo and kills the system in Vox's villain quarters, replacing the V with an X, similar to the one he now wears on his forehead. Aleister has stolen Vox's song away from him by creating a not quite exact mirror of it, but a mirror nonetheless. It starts with Vox's beginning part, then his rap, then the chorus, before Aleister takes over with his own rap part, then the chorus, and finally the end, subverting Vox's beginning section. But although he won with ease, that doesn't mean that Al was completely unbothered. In his dedicated comic, we see him passing by a TV wall showing Vox's face, upon which he can't stop himself from mumbling curses under his breath, saying, "Obnoxious, pompous piece of shit, television, fucking egotistical, of glamorized, I can't read that, overrated, dumb, annoying cultist bastard. Harumph, harumph." So at least according to this old comic, Vox is infuriating Al as much as Al is infuriating Vox. The next scene takes place at a conference between all the V's. The conference room is situated underwater, Vox's sharks now orbiting around us. This setting has been made famous by James Bond again, more precisely by the movie The Spy Who Loved Me, released in 1977. There, supervillain Karl Stromberg resides in an oceanic citadel that can fully submerge itself underwater. And of course, he is one of the 4 villains in the movie franchise who gets rid of people by feeding them to his sharks. The movie actually does resemble its book counterpart in name only. Everything in the movie but the title is completely original. This was done by Ian Fleming's own request though, as he was so unhappy with how this particular novel turned out that he didn't want it to be seen replicated in a movie. While the V's try to figure out how to stop the radio demon from forming a contract with Charlie, Valentino does some arts and crafts on his revolver, gluing on some sequins or rhinestones or something like that. Val's actor Joel Perez once got a 3D printed version of this gun as a gift at a con, and then took it with him on the flight back. The airport security personnel was very alarmed when they x-rayed his bag, and then very confused when they pulled out a pink plastic gun with zebra patterns and hearts all over. Vox is planning to let a spy infiltrate the hotel, but by Valentino's own admission, Angel might not be the most reliable candidate, so he has another idea. Next scene, we're back at the hotel. Charlie and Vaggie are back from recruiting. Alistair's Shadow's working force is building a new wall, except the creature Angel was flirting with earlier. He is just standing there being impressed with his own physique. He doesn't even have a tool, giant or otherwise. Disappointed! Elegant as a gazelle, Charlie jumps on the sofa, defeated. Angel asks, "So, how did it go?" And Vaggie explains that no sinner wanted to join them. We don't see their endeavors here in this episode, but we see it in Angel's prequel comic. And they are bad at it. When both girls try to recruit Angel, who then asks them, why him? Charlie's answer is, because he seems to be a person who regrets his life choices. Angel, you just look like an absolute failure at living. Vaggie gives another reason by saying, "We have been talking to demons all day and nobody has agreed. We wanted someone better, but since no one wants to, we have to resort to asking someone like you. Girls, stop talking and bribe him already." Okay. To be fair, Charlie doesn't completely suck at this. Her telling Angel that she can see something in him that he can't see himself is ultimately what impresses him a little bit. There's a knock on the door and Vaggie opens to find a wild Serpentious appearing. Greeting, "Why, hello, my dear." He immediately sees himself confronted with first Vaggie's fist and then her spear. Because, as Angel reminds everyone, he tried to attack them literally 6 hours ago. Vaggie's spear doesn't appear to have an equivalent in the real world. The so-called wings on the sides of her blade are typically pointed to the opposite direction or straight to the side because they were either used to penetrate armor or to catch and redirect attacking swords. Serpentious claims he is here to better himself, and Charlie is quick to forgive and to welcome him with open arms. She shows him every last bit of the hotel, since she is so eager to have her first real guest. Of course, the first real guest, which is Angel, asks what about him, and Vaggie is quick to point out that he constantly makes them look bad, sexually harasses staff, and never once tried to better himself. While Charlie points out that it's nice to, for once, have someone who's interested. Girls, I mean it, sometimes you just have to stop talking. Oh, and I also know what BLZ juice is now. It's meat. It features in Hell of a Boss. All the while, Serpentious just nonchalantly whips out his Vox Tech watch, by which he communicates to Vox about their evil scheme, in full view of everyone. He is already a very good spy. Next, Charlie introduces him to Nifty, who is preoccupied by playing with Kiki. Kiki likes playing with Nifty, but she doesn't like the snake approaching her and flees in fear. Nifty, though, isn't fearful. She's excited that the bad boy is back, and that he should never leave her again. But Charlie assures they're 80% sure she's harmless. And I would like to know where this assessment comes from, What in Nifty's demeanor has ever given you the impression that she is even 10% harmless? Charlie almost runs into Alistair, who is next in line to be introduced, even though Sir Pen already knows very well who he is. And with that encounter, we will leave the hotel, because this has been 7 minutes again. Question of the day. What kind of TV show host do you think Vox has been during his living days? I hope you learned something interesting today. Till we meet again, party like the priests in hell, and I bid you all farewell until next time. This time, though, they're in the roles of builders, since there is a Wow, page 2, and I already can't read anymore. It's 7 pages. This is the voice of one of the songwriters, Tim? Tim Allen wrote the songs. The first news show that was successful with audiences, again, th, ga. Why am I so incredibly German? Our two rivals enter the picture in a split screen. Did I say scream? As both try to overpower the other, the line between them gets shoved around until L invades Rock. Okay. Boy, give me the Coke. The drink, that is, not the drugs. And of course, he is one of the 4 villains in. Did you really just shut down, computer? Really? Ugh.